It's the next level.
Hey, my name is Ross Marquand, and I play Red Skull. You are listening to Panels to Pixels podcast. Check it out.
Attention all passengers. Wilford Industries wishes you good morning. The temperature outside is minus 119.6 degrees Celsius. As we enter the Yukon territory of former Canada, we remind you for your personal safety, be prepared to brace. We are 6 years, 9 months, and 26 days from departure. At the tone, the exact time will be 800 hours.
Hey panelers, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And this week we are starting a new show, and that would be called Snowpiercer. And the synopsis for this first episode, is first, the weather changed. It's grisly murder stokes the class division of Snowpiercer. Melanie deputizes a dangerous rebel to help solve the killing. Andre Layton, the world's only surviving homicide detective. Which, when you brought this up to me originally, Steve, I was like, this is interesting, and it's far different from the movie. And I was a bit skeptical at it at first, but when I saw some previews and everything else, I was like, I really want to see this, because the idea of the actual show in comparison, and I loved the movie, and I am really intrigued. I really like the show.
Yeah, I'm with you. I watched the first 2 episodes of this, and that's when I was really hooked. And I contacted you and said, we got to do Snowpiercer. This show is great. I believe it's already been picked up for season 2. Of course, we don't know when season 2 is going to happen, but it's definitely not the movie. It's very different from the movie, and so I'm excited to do this show, and I'm hoping that some listeners will get on board and follow along with us here, especially once we catch up to everything. I mean, we'll always be a couple of weeks behind doing just one episode, but it's got 10, or what is it scheduled for? Let me see, because I don't want to make the mistake. But what did you think? So you liked it?
I really liked it. It really caught me, because it's oddly enough what's reflecting of what's going on in society today, I guess. And it's
a little bit.
On top of that, I really liked it for the fact that the show and the movie were basically based on the French trade paperback that was out in 1982. Now that's how long ago.
I didn't realize that it was that long ago.
Yeah, I researched it, and it's very interesting. A lot of good books come out of France, apparently, like Pierre Boulez's Planet of the Apes. I'm curious of the translation from French to English, though, based on, and wondering if they're going and coinciding it with the actual comic run that they did, or this trade paperback.
Yeah. So this first season is 10 episodes is what we've got, and it is slated, according to IMDb, to have a season 2 that's also going to be 10 episodes. So I'm excited for that, to know that we've got at least a little bit of a show to go through, and I really liked it. I liked the concept of it. I liked the idea of it, and I like that we're going to get some. Well, we'll talk about some of this stuff, but I just really enjoyed those first 2 episodes. I can't wait to watch the third one. Can't wait to dig back into the second episode, because I've only watched it once, and next week when we dig into episode 2, and so I'm with you.
And I guess we should move on to our top 5s.
Absolutely.
Good evening, passengers. Be advised, track conditions will deteriorate over the next 24 hours.
Well, my number 5 would be the backstory, and how it was done was really cool and interesting. I can't remember how they did it in the movie, but the fact that, we actually got a backstory was great to explain where they're at this current time, whereas they didn't just jump right into it and thinking, oh, you know everything,
Yeah, it was great. In fact, that was my number 5 as well. Is just that whole. I purposely didn't go back and rewatch the movie because I didn't want to have a comparison. Now I may at some point here, once we get into the series, go back and watch the movie itself again just to see what they do differently. Because I don't remember. I'm with you. I don't remember if the movie explains anything or if it just dives you right into the world situation that it is. I love that they use that little anime, switching back and forth from anime into real live action there to kind of show us what happened when they're like the scientists tried to cool the earth and they made it too cool. So now everything is just frozen over. So yeah, I'm totally with you. That was my number 5 as well. Just that getting that little bit of backstory that we got there at the beginning.
Yeah, that man actually purposely caused an ice age.
Yeah.
Oh, they did not know what they were doing.
Yeah.
Well, my number 4 would be the classifications within the episode. Obviously, those that were not of wealth were not in the middle or in the front cars of the train. And seeing how the poor were pretty much oppressed on the train itself. Very similar to the movie and how everybody was, but at least we got the backstory of why they were put into the back cars, because apparently there was an insurgence of everybody just trying to get on the train, and they threw them in the back.
That was it. Well, it looked like to me that those were like the baggage cars, because if you look, and obviously we don't know all of what happened, immediately after people got onto the train, but it really looked like it was kind of like the baggage cars that they were getting into. And we see the third class section and we see the first class section. We haven't really seen the second class section, so we don't know what that in between is. So we know there's at least 3 classes, and it seems like third class is the lowest class of ticketed passengers, because that's what everybody from the back is trying to get to. So we'll make you third class if you do this, and that kind of thing. So it's it was interesting, and I hope we get a little bit more of that, of them just showing us kind of how the whole thing was set up, and I think I've got this later in my notes, but it was really good to kind of get at least a little bit of a glimpse of the two different sides there. So my number 4 is just that beginning, that when she tells us the train's been traveling for over 6 years. There's this whole. It was interesting to see the whole setup of rations there. That when at the beginning they bring this cart of rations, and they notice that there's less of them than there were before, and so it was really kind of interesting that they're like, well, this is all you get. And these tailies, as they're called, I'm interested to see how that society was built, because like you're just talking about the whole classification of people, and I wonder if they took a census or how they knew kind of like how many of them there are, what kind of their skills are, because remember they tell us that old Ivan was brought forward because he was the only person who could tune a piano, and that nobody else had piano wire. They hadn't thought to bring piano wire. So how did they find out that Ivan knew how to tune a piano? Did they go back and just ask what? And like with Leighton, he later says that, his ex-girlfriend told them that he was a homicide detective, so they didn't just know it. So I thought that was really interesting there, that we don't really know how kind of the negotiations were set up, because obviously somebody had to come back initially when this train started rolling 6 years ago, and they had to go, okay, we're not going to throw you off the train. We're going to let you stay here. We're going to get the baggage or whatever is in these cars. You're going to be contained to these cars here. We're going to bring you bricks of rations. You don't have to do anything. Like the one woman says in the next, actually I think it's in episode 2, when she says, you don't have to do anything except not rebel. And so it's interesting. I wonder if we're going to see those negotiations, if they're going to show it to us at all, or if we're just going to be kind of left to our own kind of thoughts on that.
It makes me think that there was no negotiations, more of interrogations than anything.
Well, there had to be something to set up.
Yeah. How did they get to know these people in some respects, because they impeded on this train that was meant
Yeah, I mean,
idealistically for these rich people or middle class
Right.
people, and
Right.
they must see them as peasants or peons or what have
Yeah.
you, and felt that, okay, well, we need to know where they're coming from. How can we utilize them in some respects?
Right. Exactly. So it'd be interesting to see if we get any of that, if they show us kind of over the years, and they talk about how there was other rebellions, how this is the second or the third rebellion, something like that. So.
Yeah. That was cool.
Yeah.
My number 3 would be the rats and how they were being used for what I guess was food. The kid was capturing them and showing them to his father.
Yeah, that I was with you on that. When I saw this note and I was rewatching it yesterday, the episode I saw where the kid, because like they dole out the rations and like everybody gets a bar, but then they start cutting them up and they go, okay, everybody's got to give a percentage for the rats. You got to give a percentage, like Strong Boy, that one guy who was the big guy.
Exactly.
He gets a full ration because he needs to have his strength. And so that's the impression I got, is that the rats, they had to be using them for food. And I think in one of the episodes, I think Leighton says something like that. But the other question is how are the rats on there to begin with? They must have been brought. How are the rats even on the train?
Well, how
Like,
did they get a whole aquarium in that train is my question.
Well, I mean, no, that stuff was set up. No, but I'm saying that stuff was specifically set up for those cars. But the rats seem to be just kind of running free, and so they had to be in those back cars, while the train was being built, and they just never,
because it got cold, and that's how.
And they found their way in there, and the train people who were building the train and building the track just didn't bother to get rid of them when before they, I guess.
Well, at least it becomes an alternate food source for them. They could have rat burgers or something,
right? Exactly.
And also, the overall investigation and how they get Andre to be involved within the investigation. He definitely is the lead character, as well as Melanie, as we know, is Jennifer Connelly, which I'm so happy we have.
So for my number 3 is just that the first time I watched this, I missed the discussion about the old man's arm. This is where they mentioned that there's been 3 rebellions prior to this time, and we see that the old man has this stump of an arm. And we don't know yet. I think it's in the next episode where we're going to see how they remove those arms. But I thought that was interesting, that fact that there's been 3 previous rebellions, and I think one of the characters says like 62 people have been killed over the course of the 6 years. Or I think Leighton said like the year 3 or the year 4 rebellion, so many people were killed, something like that. So it's interesting that they've had kind of these and I remember, I have flashes of memories from the movie. I remember them talking about that in the movie, that they would attempt these things every few years, and it was a way kind of getting rid of these. What do they call them? People who are illegally on a train, stowaways.
Pretty much
kind
a
of stowaways,
stowaway,
I guess. Yeah.
Huh. And that will lead me to my number 2.
Yeah.
And that would be Andre protecting his people in the rear cars. They started that fight, but only got through, I think, 1 car. There was so much military on that train. It was, you could tell they were prepared, and it just reminded me of like what's going on today. But regardless, It's like, wow.
Yeah, that police force is, and like the 2 guards that are sitting outside, and I guess they have to have round the clock shifts to make sure these tailies don't break through the doors or whatever. So they have these guards there, and they're counting how long it takes for the doors to open and how long the doors close for, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it is interesting that they definitely had a lot of security. They knew they were going to need security on this train, and whether they knew that before the tailies got jumped on, or whether since then they've gone through and found people to join the security staff, I'm not sure. But I thought that was interesting that, so my number 2 is kind of I thought it was really cool that Andre recognizes that the blonde girl, that she was actually a policeman, because he looks at Rash or whatever the guy's name is, and he says, you weren't a policeman, because he can tell that he wasn't a policeman, but he can tell that the woman was a policeman, but that she couldn't have been more than like 1 year out of being a rookie, and she says that she wanted to be a homicide detective. I just thought it's cool that we see this in TV shows and in movies, that cops can kind of recognize each other, even if they're not in uniform, or if they're not doing that Andre can tell that she was actually a police officer. I always thought that was kind of cool. And I loved when the kid shows Leighton's worldly possessions to his mom, and his badge is in there, and I noticed that there was a spoon. A spoon was one of his worldly possessions. I thought that was interesting, that was the thing the kid was going to keep safe, was his badge, his spoon, and there was a couple other things that I tried to freeze frame it, but I couldn't see everything that was in that little wrapped up bundle he had.
Yeah. My number 1 would be the overall start of the show. I'm glad that you actually had suggested this show. It is so interesting. Very similar to the movie, but apparently the story is from years past, based on what the trade paperback went over. I'm not sure how far in the run it went, or how many pages it was, but an overall good story in my opinion, and it started off very well.
Very cool. Yeah, I had the same kind of thing for number 1. I love the season, and I think I told you before we started watching this that I kind of years and years ago I used to try to write fiction and stuff, and I had the idea, kind of like a Demolition Man kind of idea, of a society that doesn't know anything about murder, and they suddenly have a string of murders, and they have to unthaw or kind of bring somebody from the past kind of in there to solve a murder for them, because none of their policemen know how to solve a murder. So I really like this idea, this concept of that they didn't even think they were going to need police detectives.
Yeah.
On this train. And I thought it was interesting that the policeman types are called brakemen. I didn't know what that was supposed to mean, or what that's supposed to indicate, but he says that to them he keeps calling them brakemen, and I was a little confused about that. So I had a couple of quotes that I really liked. I like when they're in the first class kind of dining car, and they're talking about what happened, and the one woman says it's nothing but track talk, which I guess is the new parlance for gossip. And then when she's complaining about having to go back there, Melanie tells her, well, you love an excuse to wear your fur. And so I thought that was really cool, that thought that she has to put on this fur to go back there, but yet everybody else is just wearing what looks like normal clothes. Like, it looks like the Tailies have gotten used to the cold, maybe, because they're not super bundled up. I mean, they're obviously not, like, they're not wearing shorts and running around with their shirts off, but they don't look like they have any extra clothes. They don't look like they're shivering, so I thought that was kind of cool. I loved when Andre had kind of the back and forth about football. The guy asked him, do you know what the difference is between footballers and policemen? And Andre says, you mean soccer? I just thought it's just so American to when you're talking to someone from Europe or from where they call it football, they call soccer football, and the American kind of says, you mean soccer? Like it just made me laugh, that thought that we still have this kind of back and forth going on there. Yeah, we got some notes, some things that we hadn't discussed. You just kind of want to go back and forth?
Yeah, definitely. You go first.
I love that we have a man praying there at the beginning while the woman is singing. So I love this. A lot of times these futuristic shows kind of just don't even show us religion, or they have some sort of weird religions that are not really anything like what we have today. So it was really kind of cool to see that there's still some sort of religion going on. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. And we all need religion at that given time when they're stuck on a train like that in the cold. Well, mine would go to the original, the very beginning, the animation for the history of how the Snowpiercer was created and by whom. I just love that whole anime style, the way it came into being, and then it just moved into live action at that point. It actually worked well with the way it actually, way it visualized.
Yeah, very cool. And we didn't really talk a lot about it, but we get a little glimpse into the geopolitics kind of what's going on. We see the one woman, she's complaining about the Europeans are body shaming the Americans, and then we have this Mr. Wolford who's really running things, but there's some sort of committee that still meets and makes decisions. So we have this sort of, it's almost like, if I don't even know if we have anything today that we even be able to compare it to. It's almost like a scaled down like privatization, but you still have the different world governments kind of things, or maybe, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that they talked about this committee and what they're going to discuss there.
My next one would be that cool train car with the living aquarium in it. I know I brought it up earlier, but we see the lady getting the lobster and fish for dinner. That was pretty cool, the way they had it laid out. That thing is huge.
Yeah, and it looked like she was naked, man.
She was
naked. So, I thought it was interesting when Leighton is first introduced to the new area of the train. They bring him food, and they say he's in the third class mess hall. And if you've ever traveled by train, it looks like the actual like old style dining car of a train. Where there's little booths and tables for you to sit at there. And so I was really kind of intrigued by that. They had to empty that third class mess hall out, and then the difference between the third class mess hall and that huge dining room with all the nice, I don't know if they were candles or just lights on the tables, and everybody with nice tablecloths and all the nice stuff in that one. And he's got this like plate with a sandwich and tomato soup. So
and he wanted more.
Yeah, and they wouldn't give it to him. Yeah.
He's like, more? No. Oh, okay. I'm just going to finish this.
So you already talked a little bit about the graphic novel. So I'll just run through these last few ones I've got real quick. I loved seeing Stephen Ogg. As soon as I saw him, I knew who he was. And I was like, that's Stephen Ogg. That's so cool. So cool to see him. There was another little quick reference that the guy who's taking care of the drawers, the people in the drawers, he talks about the notary. He says, well, it takes them a long time to wake up, and we have to get the notary. And so I thought that was an interesting thing. I wonder if we're going to see some more of these kind of different, like you talked about, kind of the classifications of people. Oh, yeah. And I love seeing the kid as the music is playing, and he's got like the keyboards laid out, scratched into the bed frame there, and he's like playing the piano kind of as the music is playing. I thought that was really cool. You could see that Ivan has been teaching him to play the piano, even though he doesn't have a piano there. Yeah. And then of course it's sad that Ivan hangs himself there. And that little girl, I couldn't understand what was going on the first time I watched it. So the second time I really tried to pay attention to it. That Strong Boy, it looked like he ripped that guy's arm off.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know if he actually had like a knife or something. It looks like he just actually ripped it out, and then the little girl picks it up and runs to the door to open the door. It was just so gruesome to see this little kid carrying this severed arm, through the train car. That I thought was, that's just horrible.
And it makes you think, was that like intentional? Did they?
I'm sure that was the plan. Oh no,
and that way the little kid just like, just open it up. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure that was the plan. That she was all along. That was what she was supposed to do. Like she knew her part of the plan was that she would be able to be small enough to sneak in there while the fighting is going on. But like you said, unfortunately, as soon as she opens the door, more cops.
Oh yeah, and they couldn't get any further. And
yeah, and then they take the one girl hostage, and then Leighton's got that whole thing was just very tense. So.
Oh, very intense, and and the blood too that was involved.
That was a lot of blood.
This is definitely a cable show, and it should be on late at night.
It's definitely a violent show. Yeah. I think MLSV or whatever the different classifications are. They said all the mature language and strong violence was there. So
yeah, that's cool.
So we didn't get any feedback this week. Nope. Hopefully we'll get some feedback on Snowpiercer. I hope people enjoy this.
Definitely.
This
and
show.
If you guys are watching this on YouTube or listening, and you have access to Facebook, just send your comments and leave them below. And please give us a thumbs up, obviously.
Absolutely.
But my thoughts on the episode as a whole, I would say I'm really loving the show. It has me intrigued. I look forward to the next episode. Obviously, I didn't skip ahead. You already saw the second episode, but I'm pretty sure I'll be watching it like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna watch it a few more times for sure. Because episode 2 is good also. But like I said, I only watched it once, and it was about a week or 2 ago, probably 2 weeks ago now. The way we're recording, so
yeah.
But I'm excited. I really like the show. I like the concept of the show. I like seeing Jennifer Connelly. I love, and I think I skipped over this one in my notes, but I love the fact that as soon as Leighton hears her voice, he says, "Oh, you're the voice of the train."
Yes.
And she's like, "Well, I'm hospitality." She doesn't have a southern accent.
That's one of those quotes that I missed that I should put in. But
yeah, I love that you're the voice of the train. So that was really, really cool. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of this series and everything going forward. So yeah, I'm really pleased.
Awesome. So with Comic Talk, there's really not much going on. There's so many rumors and everything that's going on. Obviously, AMC is unsure of their reopening, so we're still in a state of limbo, but it has me fearful. But drive-ins are still out there, and you could always go see a movie if need be. Also, comic book shops have reopened. My local store reopened, thankfully, and they have my pull list, and thankfully, I got my stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked up a few comics a week or so ago, and they called me, and they've got one other issue in that I need to go pick up at my local place. But yeah, finally, comics are back being reprinted and being printed and being sent out, because that was the thing that my local comic book shop, when I called them and asked, they were like, "Well, we don't know when they're going to start printing comics and sending them out again." So
yeah. Yeah, and thankfully they're open. I was able to snag myself, we already spoke about it previously on a previous episode about Namor coming back, and Jerry Ordway had inked the most recent new re-envisioning of Namor from Marvel.
Nice.
And I like that, so I picked that up. I didn't get to see Jerry. Apparently he was in there a few days before, and I didn't snag a signed copy, but the fact that, he's still working, he's doing his thing, and on top of that we got cool comics to read. I actually picked up a couple of facsimiles of a few comics that I had when I was younger that, as we all know, comics degrade over time based on paper and everything. So this is like an actual current idea or facsimile. It's an actual reprint on the way they actually print out comics nowadays.
Yeah, very cool.
So I have a podcast recommendation that would be Strange Indeed with Rima on the Podcast Network.
I believe she's going to start doing just random episodes of Black Mirror is what she's announced, and I don't know when those will start coming out or who the co-hosts will be for those. But yeah, I absolutely loved being on Strange Indeed a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to keep pushing TV Podcast Industries. They're covering Penny Dreadful, City of Angels, and I call them every week and leave them a voicemail. And they have a patron that I think I chip them off $1 or $2 a month to their Patreon, and they're doing a review of Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So I rewatched Captain America: The Winter Soldier last night and sent them a voicemail for that one. And I hadn't watched. I'm a fan of the Marvel movies, but I'm not like a super fan. I haven't watched all of them.
He's not me, everybody. So.
Yeah, and I don't know all the connections, but I did catch that The Winter Soldier is the movie where Captain America asks Nick Fury to trust him, and Nick Fury says, "The last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye."
Yep.
And he's referring to that whole Captain Marvel with the cat thing. So I thought that was really, really cool. A lot of things I had forgotten about in
you
that
forgot
movie.
about Batroc being in it.
Who?
Batroc.
Who's that? Who is that?
The little skilled. He was supposed in the comic books. He was a French acrobat, and he's the one that Cap fights on the boat. And he puts the shield down.
Gotcha. Okay, that's I didn't know what the character name.
That's Batroc.
What?
That was the first idea of we get to see another character. So that was pretty cool in that movie. Obviously, we get the whole Hail Hydra and all that good stuff
with Robert Redford. Yeah, and we see the fall of Shield in this. In the Winter Soldier, there's a lot of stuff that happened in the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, which pretty much set up. If you guys did not, listeners out there have not watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they are back with the new season. But that's how Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actually started, was just after this movie.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, but it was really good. There's, like I said, there's a lot of things that I had forgotten about with it, and so it was cool to see that again. To see the origin of Falcon as well was really cool, and to hear Peggy Carter talk about her husband. And that was really cool because all the speculation we have now after Endgame and that kind of thing. So yeah, very, very cool to revisit that. So I encourage everybody to check out TV Podcast Industries. And also, we have to go back. Lost Revisited, they are back. They are finishing up season 3 of Lost. So they're back with a vengeance. They interviewed MC Gainey. And they had a great episode that I just finished before Mark and I started recording here. So I'm looking forward to watching the next episode of Lost and sending them some feedback as well.
Awesome.
No YouTube recommendations this week?
None. Yeah, everybody knows what I would recommend. So Grim Life Collective, go check them out.
So we would love to get any sort of feedback from you guys if you want to talk to us about Snowpiercer the movie, Snowpiercer episode 1, or we'll be recording Snowpiercer episode 2 next week. Please send that in. You can find us panelstopixelspodcast.com. You can find us on Facebook as Panels to Pixels. You can email us at panelstopixels1@gmail.com. That's panelstopixels1. The TO is spelled out right there in the middle. The number 1 at gmail.com. You can call us if you want to use your phone for something other than recording a voicemail. You can actually call us.
Or texting.
845-350-2095. We are also on YouTube. In fact, I believe the episode usually releases on YouTube earlier than anywhere else. And that's just Panels to Pixels Podcast on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up there. Follow us, subscribe, and check it out. But send us some feedback. Let us know what you thought of Snowpiercer, or if you don't like it. If you didn't like Snowpiercer, let us know about that too. If there's something else you want us to recover. Something to cover.
Exactly. Or you could actually rate us on Podchaser if you'd like. So just go to podchaser.com and you could give us a review there if you'd like as well. We're listed.
Yeah.
So, and where else can everybody else hear us? Well, I'm a co-host on the Walking Dead Talk Through with Brian Malash on Talk Through Media. And with that podcast, we actually review The Walking Dead each week. This show, Panels to Pixels, will always be on the Next Level Podcast Network, but there will always be a link for Talk Through Media for others to listen to as well on our Facebook page. So listen to me on The Walking Dead Talk Through, if you're The Walking Dead Talk Through, Let's Talk Through, or even the other one that hasn't come out yet, but which will be about The World Beyond. So those podcasts will come out when those shows are in production and actually have episodes up. So listen to us on talkthroughmedia.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. We are currently working a lot of things also for this particular network. So this podcast, I should say, not network. The network is doing well. So, keep in touch here on our Facebook group, like Steve mentioned, or just send us an email.
There you go. And you can hear my voice right here, of course. And as I spoke earlier, I do send voicemails to various other podcasts. You can hear me pop up on things. Right now with the world situation, there's not that much new out there. So that's why I'm very excited for this Snowpiercer. It's something new. It's something we're able to watch.
Exactly. And with new content comes new fun.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think about it. So we're here to entertain you during these times. I hope everyone is staying safe, staying calm and collective. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. So with that, that's our show, everyone. Thanks for everyone for listening. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And this was Panels to Pixels. And we'll see you on the next panel. Good night.
Good night, everybody.